Hi everybody, Dan Bailey here with my first video of 2023. So of course, Happy New Year everybody. I'd like to thank everybody for your support last year, all the people who subscribed and watched my videos and tuned in. It's been a really fun experience to grow the channel and you guys have been really instrumental in that. A few months ago I hit 10,000 subscribers and now we're rolling towards 13,000. So again, thanks so much to everybody who's watched my videos, subscribed, and of course left comments. It's always fun to interact with you guys in that way. And I enjoy answering your comments and sharing my insight and just getting to know you guys a little bit better. Today we're going to talk about the X-T5. Before we do that, I want to let you guys know I have a brand new online course called Mastering the Fujifilm Autofocus System. I just launched the course at the beginning of January. It's already got some great feedback and testimonials from people who've watched the lessons. Basically, this is a full tutorial on the entire focus system found in all the X series cameras. I show you all the settings, all of the controls, walk you through every menu item that has to do with focus, and I'll show you how you can use these settings and apply them to your own photography so that you can be more efficient when you're out shooting. And I share with you some of my pro tips, stuff that I've learned over the years that have helped me become a better, more efficient, and more proficient shooter when I'm shooting action and anything that moves. And this course is useful for anybody who shoots with any of the X series models. So you can find information about the course right here at this link. Okay, let's talk about the X-T5. I've been having a ton of fun with mine so far. I was able to find one at a local dealer here in Anchorage right before Christmas. I've taken it out a number of times, shot a lot of landscapes with it, some winter action sports, and I've been really impressed with the performance. I love the form factor and the feel. During the past 9 years, I've used all of the X-T models, the 1, 2, 3, and 4, quite extensively. I've enjoyed shooting with each one of them because they all are very powerful and they're all fun to shoot with. But I gotta say, I loved the X-T1, but the X-T2, there was something amazing about that camera. It was such a huge upgrade from the 1 in terms of features and performance, and many of my favorite images, action, aerials, landscapes, I made with the X-T2. And I feel like the X-T5 kind of brings me back to the love and the excitement I had with the X-T2. And maybe it's something as silly as my X-T1 and 2 were black and my X-T3 was silver, and then the X-T4 had a flip screen, so we kind of get away from things a little bit. But the form factor and feel and size and usability of the X-T5 just reminds me so much of the passion and the excitement I had for the X-T2. So today we're going to talk about a few of the settings inside the X-T5, which I feel just add a certain amount of performance, usability, and just visual appeal when you're shooting. 3 of these settings we're going to talk about today are also found on the other 5th gen models like the XH2 and the XH2S, but 2 of them are X-T5 specific. So this is a brand new setting, and again, it's only found on the X-T5. There's no word as whether it's going to show up in those other models with a firmware update or if it's going to be put into future 5th gen models, but for now, it's only on the X-T5. And what this does is it frees up the boundaries of your focus frame. And so what I mean by this is that when you're scrolling your focus box, whether you're using single AF or zone AF, if you're scrolling a single point around the frame or a little zone box, and you hit the edge of the viewfinder, it stops. And if you want to go back over here, you have to scroll with your thumb the other way. So if you're moving subjects or just composing quickly out in the world, and you're moving the zone boxes from side to side, you have to keep going back and forth. With wrap focus point, if you enable this setting, the bounds are no longer there. So when you're scrolling that little focus box across the frame, if you hit the edge and keep going, it'll appear back over here. So you essentially create an infinite loop where you can scroll the little focus box all the way through the frame. So you never have to go, oh, I gotta go back there. Oh, it's moving this way. You can just keep scrolling. And so that just adds to the level of efficiency that you can have with the autofocus system when you're out shooting with the X-T5. So if you have an X-T5, my recommendation is go into the AF menu and enable wrap focus point. The next one is called Record Frame Indicator, and it's another one that's only found on the X-T5. It's not found on the XH2 or the XH2S. And this is a video-only setting. It only applies if you're shooting movies and recording video with your X-T5. But it's kind of a useful one. It's not a setting that increases the performance of the camera in any way, but it definitely adds to the user experience that you have when you're shooting movies with the X-T5. Normally, on a camera like the X-T3 or the X-T4, when you're in movie mode and you hit record, the only indicator that you have that you're actually recording video is there's a little blinking red dot right up here in the top of the viewfinder. And depending on your shooting style and what's going on around you, it may not be that easy to see. You know, like I said, it's just a little tiny blinking red dot up there. However, when you enable record frame indicator and you press record, you basically get this. Your entire edge of the viewfinder is outlined in red, and that makes it really easy to see that yes, you are clearly recording video at this moment. So even if you look away or you're kind of distracted or you're just kind of gauging the scene around you while you're shooting, or maybe you're the director and someone else is actually doing the camera duties, that record frame indicator gives you an extremely bright, highly visible indicator that tells you, again, yes, the camera is recording video at this very moment. So even though the XH2 and the XH2S are kind of marketed as the more capable video cameras in the line, this is a pretty cool feature that's found on the X-T5 only. You know, it doesn't have quite the same level of video specs that those other two models have, and that's largely because it only uses SD cards, whereas the XH models have another slot for the CF Express cards, which can transfer data at a much greater speed. But for the types of movies and video that most people are going to shoot with their X-Series camera, the specs and features on the X-T5 are perfectly adequate, and they're high power enough to shoot a wide variety of stuff. You can absolutely get pro quality movie style footage with your X-T5, and this setting is just one more feature that adds to the user experience when you're doing that. Number 3 is the new nostalgic neg film simulation. Again, this is also found on the other XH models, and I'm sure it's going to go into any other X-Series model that comes after this. I've been a huge fan of Fuji's classic neg film simulation, which made it into all of the 4th gen models except for the X-T3. Classic neg was designed to reproduce that print film look. It had a more muted color palette than some of the other film sims. It had a higher contrast level, and so it had a pretty rich tonality. And I loved the way it looked, but there were some times where it's just a little bit too contrasty and a little bit too cool. The new nostalgic film sim kind of picks up where that classic neg leaves off and brings it into a whole new territory. You still have more muted colors. In fact, some people have noted that nostalgic neg has a similar saturation level to Eterna. However, it has more tonality in the midtones and the shadows than Eterna does, and it actually has a warmer color cast as well, which you'll definitely see in the shadows. So where classic neg was pretty cool in the shadows, nostalgic neg really fills that in with some nice sense of warmth. One of Fuji's official photos was a portrait shot in the bright sunlight, and it does work quite well for that because it warms up the skin tones a little bit and looks really nice. And I've had similar experience shooting in the sunshine with it. It's not quite as saturated as Velvia, but it does have a really interesting warm look to it. You can definitely see the slight red tint it adds to some of the tones. I've also shot inside the forest with it, under very low light conditions, and even under really flat light as well. And in all of those situations, I've found it gives a really appealing look. So I'm pretty psyched with this new nostalgic neg film sim. I think it's a great complement to classic neg. I'm sure I'll do a full review on my channel of nostalgic neg, but for now just take my word for it. It's a gorgeous looking film sim and a great addition to the X-T5 and the other 5th gen models as well. Okay, now this is where things really start to get interesting. Now the next two things we're going to talk about actually increase the potential performance and efficiency that you can have with your X-T5, and also with your XH2 and your XH2S, because this applies to those models as well. And these both have to do with the custom settings. Every X-Series model going all the way back to the X-T2 allows you to save custom settings and recall them quickly. Every X-Series model going back to the X-T2 allows you to save custom settings and then recall them quickly, either in the Q menu or on the mode dial, which is what you have on the XS10 and the XH model cameras. However, there's one huge difference. With the new faster processors that you'll find inside the new 5th gen models, you can actually save a lot more settings and features to a custom setting. On all previous models, you were only allowed to save a few of the image quality settings, things like film simulation, aspect ratio, white balance, things like that. But on these new Fujis, you can save just about anything from the image quality menu, a number of settings from the focus menu as well, and also from the shooting settings menu. So this means you can save almost any of the items inside the image quality menu, and also things like your AFC custom setting parameters, the number of focus points in your display, wrap focus point even. You can also save things like pre-shot ES, you can save shutter type. So all of those things can be saved to one of your C1 through 7 custom preset slots. And then depending on which camera you have, and depending on your workflow, you can either select them on your mode dial if you have an XH model, or you can assign a function button to recall custom settings, and this allows you to press a single function button and then bring up your choices to choose between your C1 through 7 custom setting slots. And these can be really useful because they allow you to set up your camera with a lot of different presets depending on the types of things you like to photograph. Essentially setting different camera configurations to match different types of potential shooting situations that you're likely to encounter. You can even assign one of those C1 through 7 slots to a particular movie shooting setup as well. There's a lot of situations where you could have very different camera configurations, and to be able to quickly choose between those different settings, those different presets, allows you to be efficient and very quick when you're approaching your scenes and deciding how you're going to shoot it. And these can reflect different types of shooting or different creative ideas you might have. Maybe you'll have a preset that's geared towards black and white. Maybe you'll have a preset that's geared towards shooting portraits. Maybe one that's geared towards fast action shooting wildlife or sports. And the fact that you can save even more parameters on these new cameras, like your shutter type, like pre-shot ES, a lot of the different autofocus settings, just gives you a much more powerful creative tool in your hands that you can customize to your own style. And I've saved the best one for last, and it actually ties directly into what I just talked about. On the new cameras, there's a function button option called Recall C1 Setting. And this does exactly what it sounds like. Whatever preset you have stored into your C1 slot on your camera, if you assign that function button to the setting and you press it, you instantly change your camera configuration to that setup with a single button press. And this, to me, is an enormously powerful tool. So for example, on my X-T5, my C1 slot has been configured to be my action shooting preset. I've got electronic shutter, pre-shot ES, subject detect autofocus, store autofocus mode by orientation, my manual focus override, and focus peak highlight set for manual focus assist. So if I'm out shooting on my X-T5, maybe I'm shooting some landscapes and some flowers and some close-ups and some trees and sunsets, and then all of a sudden I see some birds flying by. All I have to do is press this function button and immediately configures the camera to that action setup, and I'm ready. All I have to do is then switch my little AF selector switch to AFC, which puts it into tracking mode. And I'm ready. I don't have to go, oh my God, there's some birds. Okay, I need to set, okay, let's go autofocus menu and, okay, set autofocus, okay, I need one button, boom, it's there. I'm ready to shoot. That is awesome. And it's one of the most powerful settings I've ever seen on an X-Series camera. So again, depending on what you like to shoot, you could configure your C1 custom setting to be like the thing that you like to shoot most, or the thing that's the most challenging for you to shoot, the thing that requires the most level of setup when you're changing to a new configuration. For example, you're shooting landscapes, you see some birds, oh, boom, I'm ready to shoot birds. I don't have to go and change a whole bunch of stuff. I'm ready. So if you have an X-T5 or one of the other 5th gen Fujis, I urge you to take advantage of these different settings I just talked about and configure your camera in the way that works best for you, and also just get the most out of the creative options these new cameras offer. There's an incredible amount of creativity and fun to be had with these new technologies. And I've been having a ton of fun with my X-T5. I'm sure a lot of you guys have as well. So that's all for today. If you are an X-Series shooter, you'll definitely want to check out my best-selling ebook, X-Series Unlimited. It's basically the missing manual to the X-Series. 400 pages of tips and information and photos that'll show you everything you need to know in order to have the most fun and get the best performance from your X-Series camera. And it's been fully updated with all of the relevant info for the X-T5 and the X-H2 and the X-H2S. And again, if this isn't the first of my videos you've watched, I want to thank you very much for your support in the past year. You can find me on social media and Patreon at Dan Bailey Photo. You can check out my website and blog as well, and also my new autofocus course. So thanks again for watching. Have fun with your Fujis out there, and I'll see you next time.